Hi, this is Javan Kharod, a chemical engineer by profession, going to continue our today's topic, crude distillation unit, and its overview. Now, first short questions. What is the distillation process of petroleum? A crude oil distillation process involves feeding crude oil at its boiling point of 400 degrees centigrade into large fractionating column. A crude oil distillation process is the process of heating crude oil and passing the vapor through a vessel to separate out different compounds known as fractions. How does crude distillation tower work? Now, crude oil is first heated above 400 degrees centigrade. The heated crude is injected into lower part of distillation column where much of it vaporizes. As the vapor rise through the tower, they pass through the series of perforated tray or structure packing. What is the distillation tower used for? A distillation column or distillation tower. They are made up of several components, each of which either transfer heat energy or enhance material transfer. A typical distillation column consists several major parts of vertical cell where separation of the component is carried out. Which type distillation is used in petroleum industries? Vacuum distillation is a part of refining process that helps to produce petroleum product out of heavier oil left out over from atmospheric distillation. Distillation columns are made up of several components, each of which use either transfer heat energy or enhance material transfer. A typical distillation column consists several major parts of vertical cell where separation of the component is carried out. How does distillation tower work? The distillation column is made up of series stacked plate. A liquid feed contains the mixture. Two or more liquid enter the column. At the one or more point, the liquid flow over the plate and vapor bubble up through the liquid via hole in the plate. Where are distillation columns used? Now, very important questions. A distillation column is essential item. Use the distillation liquid mixture to separate the mixture into component part fraction based on the differences volatility. Fractionating column are used small scale laboratory distillation as well as large scale industrial distillation. What is thing used in distillation? There are three essential pieces: the distillation equipment needed to carry out the process, reboiler or pot used to heat the source's liquid, condenser. A heat vapor is cooled back the liquid state, receiver flask, the device into which the concentrated of the distillate is collected. The device used distillation, sometimes referred as still, consists of minimum reboiler or pot in which the source's material heated, condenser in which heated vapor cooled back to liquid state, or receiver in which concentrated or purified liquid called distillate is collected. Why do we need use high tower distillation crude oil? The primary purpose of atmospheric distillation tower is to separate crude oil into its component or distillation cut, distillation fraction for further processing by other processing unit. Atmospheric distillation typically set capital limit for the entire refinery. Can petroleum be separated by distillation? Petroleum can be separated into various types of fuel by a process called refining using fractional distillation. Petrol, diesel and kerosene, all product or fraction on the process of refining petroleum. On the industrial scale, the different fraction of petroleum are separated out the fractional distillations. What are products of petroleum distillation? The petroleum products are usually grouped into four categories: light distillate, liquefied petroleum gas, gasoline, naphtha, middle distillate, kerosene, jet fuel, diesel, heavy distillate, and residue, heavy fuel oil, lubricating oil, wax, asphalt. What is the process? The processing of petroleum. The petroleum refinery changes crude oil into petroleum product for use as fuel for transporting, heating, paving road, generating electricity and feedstock for making chemical. Refining break crude oil down into its various components which is then selectively recognized into new product. How many methods the petroleum distillation are there? There are three different distillation methods used to separate crude oil according to component boiling point. They are true boiling point, ASTM, and equilibrium flash vaporization distillation. Each method has a specific use in the petroleum industries. Petroleum refinery changes crude oil into petroleum product or use fuel for transportation, heating, paving road, generating electricity, feedstock, for making chemical, refining break crude oil down into its various components, which are then selectively reconfigured into a new product. How do we process petroleum? The petroleum refining separate crude oil into components, use variety of purpose. Crude petroleum heated and hot gases are passed into the bottom of distillation column. As gases moves up the height of the column, the gases cool down their boiling point and condense into liquid. What are the processes involved in petroleum refining? Three major types of the operation are performed. Refine the oil into finished product, separation, conversion and treating. Now, process of crude oil refining. Once crude oil is extracted from the ground, it must be transported, refined into petroleum products that have any value. Those products must be transported to end-use consumer or retailer like gasoline station of the company that deliver heating oil to your house. If you have oil furnace, the overall wealth to consumer supply chain, the petroleum product is often described as being segmented into three components. Now, upstream activity. They involve exploring from crude oil deposit and the production of crude oil. Example firms that will belong into the upstream segment of the industry include company with one right to drill or oil, ExxonMobil, and the company that provide support services to the drilling segment of the industries. Midstream activity that involve distribution of crude oil, refining, the refining of crude oil into sellable product and the distribution of the product to wholesaler, retailer. Example firm that would belong to the midstream segment of the industry include company that transport oil by pipeline, truck, and company that refine crude oil. Downstream activity that involve retail sell petroleum product, gasoline station, perhaps the most visible downstream company, but company that deliver heating oil, propane, would also fall into this category. Some of the companies in the petroleum industries have activity that will fall into upstream, midstream, downstream segment. ExxonMobil is the one of example. Such a firm, petroleum refinery, are large-scale industrial complexes that produces sellable petroleum products, where crude oil and sometimes oil, feedstock, biomass. The detail of refinery operation different from location to location, but virtually all the refineries have two basic processes separating crude oil into various product components. Actual refinery operations are very complicated, but the basic function, the refinery can be broken down into three categories: chemical process, distillation, involve the separation of material based on differences, their volatility. This is the first and most basic step, the refining process, and the prosecution to cracking and reforming. Cracking involves breaking of heavy molecules into lighter and more valuable hydrocarbon. Reforming involves changing the chemical nature hydrocarbon to achieve desired physical property and also increases market value of those chemicals. Petroleum refining process are the chemical engineering process of the other facility. Petroleum refinery also refer oil refinery to transform crude oil into various products such as liquefied petroleum gas, gasoline, or petrol, kerosene, jet fuel, diesel fuel, and fuel oil. Refinery are very large industrial complexes that involve many different processing units and auxiliary facilities such as utility unit, storage tank. Each refinery has its one unique arrangement and combination refining processes largely determine refinery location, desired product, and economic consideration. The crude oil distillation unit is the first processing unit. Virtually all petroleum refinery crude oil distilled incoming crude oil into various fractions or different boiling ranges, each of which they are then proceed further in the other refinery processing unit, the crude distillation unit often referred as the atmospheric distillation unit because of it operates slightly above atmospheric pressure. Below the typical crude oil distillation unit, the incoming crude oil is preheated, exchanging heat with some of hot distilled fraction and other stream. It is desalted to remove inorganic salt, primary sodium chloride. Following the desalter, crude oil is further heated, exchanging heat with the sum of the hot distilled fraction and other stream by the heater, the fuel fired furnace, fired heater to a temperature about 390 degrees centigrade and routed into the bottom of distillation unit. The cooling and condensing the distillation tower overhead is provided partially by exchanging heat with the incoming crude oil and partially either by air-cooled, water-cooled condenser. Additional heat is removed from the distillation column by pump-around system. Now refining end product. The primary end product produced petroleum refining may group into four categories: light distilled, middle distilled, heavy distilled and others. Now light distilled. In light distilled, it is 7 components. After that, liquefied petroleum gas, light naphtha, petrol and heavy naphtha. Middle distilled, kerosene, automotive, railroad, diesel fuel, residual heating oil, other light fuel oil. Heavy distilled, heavy fuel oil, the wax, lubricating oil, asphalt, other, coke, similar to coke, coal and elemental sulfur. Processing unit used in refining. The crude oil distillation unit, that is, distilled the incoming crude oil into various fractions for further processing in the other unit. Vacuum distillation unit. Further distill the residue oil from the bottom of the crude oil distillation unit. The vacuum distillation is performed at a pressure well below atmospheric pressure. Naphtha hydrotreater unit uses hydrogen to desulfurize the naphtha fraction from the crude oil distillation or other unit with the refinery. Catalytic reforming unit that convert desulfurized naphtha molecule into higher octane molecule to produces reformant, which is component end product gasoline or petrol. Alkylation unit that convert isobutane and butylene into alkylate, which is a very high octane component end product gasoline or petrol. Isomerization unit that convert linear molecule such as normal pentane into higher octane branch molecule, blending into end product gasoline, also used to convert linear normal butane into isobutane for use. Alkylation unit. Distillation hydrotreater unit uses hydrogen to desulfurize some of other distilled fraction from the crude oil distillation unit, such as diesel oil, Marex, mercaptans oxidizer or similar unit, desulfurizer, liquefied petroleum gas, kerosene or jet fuel, oxidizing undesired mercaptan to organic disulfide. Amine gas treater unit, the tail gas treatment, the converting hydrogen sulfide gas from the hydrotreater into end product elemental sulfur. The large majority of the 64 crore metric ton of the sulfur produced worldwide 2005 was the byproduct sulfur of the petroleum refining and natural gas processing plant. Crude catalytic cracking upgrade heavier, higher boiling fraction from the crude oil distillation by converting them into lighter and lower boiling, more valuable product. Hydrocracker unit uses hydrogen, upgrade heavier fraction from the crude oil distillation, the vacuum distillation unit to lighter, more valuable product. Whisk breaker unit, upgrade heavy residual oil, the vacuum distillation unit by thermally cracking them, the lighter, more valuable reduced viscosity product. Delay coking and fruit coker unit convert the heavy residue oil into end product petroleum coke as well as naphtha and petroleum oil byproduct. Okay guys, this is up to our crude oil distillation unit. I hope you get sufficient knowledge after watching my video. Next chapter we consider another chemical engineering topic. Till then, goodbye. Do take good care of yourself.